Ciao Fabri, welcome back in the podcast. Today
Ciao
we
guys.
speak about Liverpool because Liverpool are on fire. Everything is happening there, so we start talking about Isak and what happened with the deal.
Yeah, many things to say in the inside story of this one because it was the night between Monday and Tuesday when Liverpool made a direct approach with Newcastle to inform them about their desire to start official negotiations for Alexander Isak and to prepare an official bid, £120 million for the Swedish striker in case Newcastle wanted to open the doors to his exit. That was the strategy for Liverpool because at the same time, still on Monday night, they were also talking to Eintracht for Hugo Ekitike, who was the main target for Newcastle, a striker. So basically the strategy at Liverpool was, let's try to get Alexander Isak, the dream target. If not possible, we will try and go for Hugo Ekitike, who is still a top target for Liverpool and has always been during this summer transfer window. But also an important target for Newcastle because Newcastle had a 78 million euros bid rejected by Eintracht on Monday for Hugo Ekitike. But since that moment, Liverpool started advancing a lot on this story. Why? Because Newcastle didn't open their doors for Alexander Isak exit. So at the moment from Newcastle the word is very clear. They don't want the player to leave. They maintain their stance since day one of this summer transfer window. They want to keep Alexander Isak. They don't want to let him go to Liverpool, and that's why Liverpool started to focus very strong in the recent hours on Hugo Ekitike as their new striker.
Before going to the details of the Ekitike story, let's stay a bit on the Isaac story that you are mentioning. Do you think he's going anywhere else this summer or is staying at the club?
At the moment, the stance from Newcastle is very clear. The player is not going anywhere. He's a crucial part of their project. They want Alexander Isak to be core for the squad also in the Champions League football they're going to play next season, so there is no chance at the moment for other clubs, I think, to enter this story, at least from England. Then you never know in the market, but at the moment I think in England only Liverpool had that possibility. They were prepared to bid £120 million, but for this summer I don't see any other English club entering the race for Alexander Isak, also because Newcastle don't want to sell, and also Newcastle are expected to present a new contract proposal to the player, so that's also going to be an important point to see if Newcastle will be able to extend this contract in the next weeks or not. So that's always been an important point and will be an important point in the upcoming days. So Newcastle maintain their stance. They don't want Alexander Isak to leave the club this summer.
Okay, so let's now talk about Ekitike and Liverpool. What is going on as of today, as of now that we are recording this episode?
Yeah, in the morning, Liverpool presented the first official bid to Eintracht Frankfurt for Hugo Ekitike. So Liverpool started advancing very strong on this one. From what I'm hearing, the official bid was close to 80 million euros, similar to the bid made by Newcastle, rejected by Eintracht because they want more. And also important to mention that Newcastle are completely out of this race. So at the moment, what we can mention is that Liverpool are working very hard on this. Liverpool remain in contact with Eintracht to try reach an agreement on the transfer fee for Hugo Ekitike, and also the Liverpool have an agreement with the player. That's a really important point. Liverpool have an agreement on a 6-year deal with Hugo Ekitike. Ekitike, from what I'm hearing, is also telling Eintracht that his desire is to go to Liverpool, and so that's why Liverpool remain in active club-to-club conversation, also because they want to get the deal done as soon as possible.
So the question is why Eintracht decided to refuse this opening bid?
First of all, because it's still not the money they want. Remember that the Eintracht always started from 100 million euros, then probably it's not going to be this the final fee, but Eintracht still insists for more than 78 million euros as a package for Hugo Ekitike, and also because there is someone internally at Eintracht, that's something I can reveal to you here, that believes that maybe Man United can jump into the race in the next days for Hugo Ekitike. Man United will sign a striker this summer, and they believe at Eintracht that they could appear from Man United for Hugo Ekitike. What I can tell you is that at the moment from the player's camp, the feeling is that the player wants to go to Liverpool. The position of the player is to give priority to Liverpool, and so I still see Liverpool are favourites, and Liverpool remain in conversations with Eintracht to try to close this chapter and reach an agreement very soon.
Talking about these clubs, do you think that we should rule out Newcastle out of the race for him?
Yes, because Newcastle had their chance to close this deal and they didn't. On Monday, the bid was rejected. Also, the player has probably now his mind completely on different clubs, especially on Liverpool, no longer on Newcastle. And also, from what I heard, since yesterday in the morning, Newcastle completely stopped the conversations with people in charge of this deal for Hugo Ekitike. Yesterday, we had some report over the afternoon on a deal advancing with Newcastle, but I've always said that it's not the case. And Newcastle left the conversation last, let's say, 24 hours, more than 24 hours ago. And what's important to mention is that Newcastle are already working on different strikers, have already started to find a different player to give Eddie Howe up front as soon as possible. So João Pedro was wanted by Newcastle, he went to Chelsea. Ekitike was also an opportunity, but they didn't close the deal, and now Newcastle will surely move on a new option for their striker position.
Talking about Liverpool, a player that we have been mentioning basically since the start of the summer, it's Darwin Nunez. We know about Napoli, what happened also with Lorenzo Lucca. What's the future of Darwin Nunez?
Still trying to find a solution to leave Liverpool this summer. With Napoli was quite disappointing for the player, from what I can tell you, because the player was really open to joining Napoli, excited by the opportunity to try a new chapter in Serie A, an exciting project with Antonio Conte as a coach, champions of Italy, playing Champions League football with ambitions this season. So Darwin was very open to that opportunity, but Napoli felt that the money the price was too expensive for Darwin Nunez, and that's why they didn't proceed on this deal. They closed the deal for Lorenzo Lucca, who is today in Italy for medical test, and contract signing with Napoli, paying 35 million euros plus 5 in advance. For Darwin, at least 55-60 million euros were needed, and so Napoli decided not to proceed. Now for Darwin, still the opportunity to leave, still the priority to leave, also because Ekitike is very close to Liverpool and they are actively working on new striker. And so for Darwin, keep an eye on Saudi clubs. I think from Saudi they can return. Was Al Nassr in January, then they signed John Duran, who already left the club. Now could be also different clubs involved in the conversation, but I think Saudi can still be a solution for Darwin, with important proposals to come, approaches already made, and so let's follow this one.
Another player that we're mentioning since a lot of time is Luis Diaz, and we know there's been a busy week also for his future.
Yes, because the desire of Luis Diaz is to try find a solution. Luis Diaz is not going to be not professional with Liverpool, but at the same time his desire is to leave. His desire is to try something different. There is this bid from Bayern rejected by Liverpool, but Bayern are expected to return to the table for Luis Diaz. So Bayern consider Luis Diaz a top target now. Also Barcelona remain interested in Luis Diaz, making contact with his agents. He's always been a top target for Barca this summer, so let's see what's going to happen there. But financially, obviously, this is a complicated deal. Liverpool keep rejected because they want to keep the player. They want to keep him. Of course, I think if they end up keeping Luis Diaz at the club with this desire to leave, probably they can try to offer him a new contract as a solution to make the player happy in this situation. But at the moment, the priority for Luis Diaz remains to leave, and the priority for Liverpool remains to keep the player because they consider him as really, really important. So let's see what happens there, but Bayern are pushing. Also, Barcelona remain interested, and so Luis Diaz's case remains absolutely one to watch in the upcoming days and weeks.
So Liverpool have been dominating the transfer window basically in the start of the summer with some incredible signings. Do you expect them to sign more players after what we are talking about, Ekitike and all these deals?
Yes, I think there is still a chance. I don't think Liverpool are done, especially with the centre-back. I remember that with the centre-back they spoke to the camp of Dinhausen at the beginning of the transfer window, then he joined Real Madrid. They made some contacts also for Mark Guehi at Crystal Palace, who remains an option for centre-back position, but they never presented an official bid, so we have to see what happens there. But Liverpool for the centre-back position, I think, could still add one more player. That's still a possibility. There's still an internal discussion with Arne Slot, with the director Richard Hughes, who is doing an incredible job this summer. So after all the fantastic signings they did and trying to do, I think there is still the opportunity to add one more centre-back. That's the strategy, that's the plan, and we will be following the situation to understand who is the real player they want. I will still keep the name of Mark Guehi at Crystal Palace as an option because he's not going to extend his contract at Palace, and so for Liverpool could be an opportunity.
Last one for today is about future stars that Liverpool are always keeping an eye on.
Yes, and he's a player they already have at their club, and this Rion Gumoha, this winger, very talented, who joined 1 year ago from Chelsea, because he's doing very well, especially in training. All people at Liverpool is super excited about this boy. Then also when he's playing, we can see the quality, the opportunity to develop is fantastic for Rion Gumoha. And so what I can tell you is that Liverpool already want to offer him a new deal. There is already some initial conversation. It could take some time before it gets sorted. but there are no issues, of course. The player is very happy at Liverpool. He's a player under consideration already, Berners lot, so really, really appreciated. And I think Liverpool internally believe that this boy can become something really special. So new contract for Young Moha is another part of the conversations internally at Anfield.
Thank you, Fabri. As always, talk to you soon for all the latest on the summer transfer window.
Thank you. Ciao, guys.